What's going on, folks? Eddie here. I hope you're having a fantastic day. It's been a while. It's been about 2 months since I talked to you folks last. Well, it's been not exactly the most exciting 2 months. I was in Ontario for a couple weeks in New Brunswick. I think that's the last time I talked to you folks, was just before I went out there. And then I got back to Vancouver and I've been sitting around waiting for parts. So I haven't really had too much to update you folks with. However, it's time to get back to it. I'm going to be back to giving you folks regular updates. And, well, first update is we're back down at Torque Motorsports. So the transmission showed up, and actually I should just show you folks that. Let's go take a look at that right now. That's my new transmission. So this is the 6-speed manual transmission that comes in the Giulia in certain markets. It does exist. It's kind of like a unicorn. So right now, the biggest difficulty that we're having is getting a hold of that plate that adapts the transmission to the engine. That has been a massive, massive challenge. If you guys don't remember, essentially the automatic transmission mates to a different flange than the manual transmission, which means the timing chain cover, which is on the back of the Giulia engine, needs to be replaced because that piece contains the flange for the transmission. It's kind of dumb, but it is what it is. So that's the part we're still looking for right now. If we can't find this thing within a month, we're just gonna make an adapter plate. I don't wanna wait that long, but the parts are starting to come together. So I guess the question is, well, what are we doing today then? Well, I'm going a little nuts, having to sit around waiting for parts for the Giulia engine swap. And quite frankly, the car feels slow to me right now. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go and we're gonna replace the MultiAir springs. You're probably asking yourself, what do these MultiAir springs do? So instead of me trying to explain something that I don't 100% understand, I think we're best off to hand it to someone who does understand what these things do. So, Johnny! John!
Okay, so we have the assembly torn apart. Why do we need to put this spring in there? Well, just like any other valve spring, any dampening device, this has to control the up and down motion of the MultiAir plunger. You put the new spring on there, now we have more control in relationship to RPM. So there's been some speculation whether or not these will or won't work because they claim this is a closed system. Okay, so what we're doing here, we're putting a little piece of tape over the end of the MultiAir. Here is the MultiAir fill. All the solenoids are open, so oil in, compression, opens these, we've already seen that. Watch the tape on the end. See the flappy flap? This is not a sealed system. There is constant bleed through the system at all times. Even when the solenoids are closed, it has to manage its pressure inside the system. These rocker arms are fed a fresh supply. This little slot directs oil up here on the roller, which in turn runs on the camshaft. So these 4 rocker arms constantly bleed oil up onto the roller to feed the camshaft lubrication on top of the MultiAir assembly. So, I guess in short terms, not a sealed system.
Okay, so we've dynoed the car as it sits. It makes about 180 horsepower. Now, keep in mind, once again, this is on just a very mild tune that John had designed specifically for my failing MultiAir. Now that we have our baseline, we're gonna change out the springs and see how much power it makes after the fact. You ready, Johnny?
I'm ready.
Johnny's ready. Okay, let's do this.
Okay, so I'm going to push up on one of these lifters because they're full of oil. Watch where the oil comes out. Right in the top of... Whoop.
Oh, hey.
Yeah.
That's gotta be hot. You alright?
Yeah. Oh, and, oh, let's do that one more time. Oh, yeah, that works. Extra difficult to get out. Okay, there we go. All right, 1, 2, 3. Ah, there we go. Oof.
So now it's time to dyno it and see if it did anything.
That was kind of the whole purpose to this.
Yeah, right?
Right? To make sure we dyno it.
Okay, so yeah, we're gonna dyno it. We're gonna see if it did anything. If it does, fantastic. If it doesn't, lesson learned. We ran the car and it didn't seem to do anything. But then John decided to shut the car off based on something that he'd heard from another customer. And it's gained in this section. It looks like the ECU is still learning because this section still dipped. But this blue line is really low. And that's because this was the tune that John put on the car just so my car would run when the MultiAir failed. And it's still the tune it's running. So far so good. We're gonna give it a night of drive time. We're gonna throw it back on the dyno tomorrow, see how it does, and then we'll tune it and see how much power we can actually make. So far, that's actually not bad. Pretty pleased with what's happened so far. Yeah, that's not a bad gain. And for the record, so you guys know what the difference is there? If you look right here, it's highlighted. That right there is a 23 horsepower difference. That's not a small difference in that mid-range. So, yeah. Let's just see what it does tomorrow. Until tomorrow, good night. And good morning. So we're back at the shop. We are strapping the car onto the dyno. We, as in John, is strapping the car onto the dyno. And we're gonna run it and see if there was any changes overnight from having some drive time on the car. After we've established whether there's any consistent changes, then we're gonna start dyno tuning the car.
I can't make the dips go away. No matter what I do, I can't make those dips go.
Well,
And that bothers me more than anything, because normally I can go through and start moving those dips around. And I can't with your car.
well, not this one. The black one was fine. This one,
Ever since they did the calibration update, honestly, no, because this car ran fucking weird when it was stock too.
yeah, I don't know. I just feel
Even when
like,
it was stock, I couldn't get any fucking power out of it.
I don't know. I just feel like the white one's not been, there's a reason I want this engine out of the car. The black one was so easy to make power on, at the same car, and this one is...
Mechanically, there's something different. I don't know what.
Mechanically, there's something wrong with this car. Like, it's... The MultiAir is a bit better now. Like, it doesn't fall in its face anymore, it doesn't break up.
Fucking straight knock.
Yeah.
It's changed.
There's still something not quite right, though. Anyhow, on a more positive note, the curve's been cleaned up on the holding it together tune from when the MultiAir was just completely messed up. And the car has definitely gained in the mid-range. So these MultiAir spring upgrades definitively add something in the mid-range. And the top is cleaned up a little bit as well. So as to the question for those that knew about these springs in advance as to whether they would do anything, the answer is yes. They definitely add some power in the mid-range, and it looks like they help up top as well. I'm sure on a healthier 124, or sorry, let's say a healthier MultiAir 1.4, you'd probably see some more interesting gains, particularly when you start to push it. But whatever.
And that's where we left her for the day. So the car feels good. It's still feeling kind of slow. Really, it's gonna feel slow until we get the things done that I want to do. I hope that answers the question as to whether those springs will do anything for those of you who are wanting to know the answer to that. Ultimately, I'm pretty happy. It's a great little mod for those of you that are looking for every last bit out of your MultiAir 1.4. The install on the 124 was not the simplest, but I've heard that installing them in the 500 and the Dodge Dart is a lot easier just because where the engine is in the engine bay in those cars. It's at least given me something entertaining with this car in the meantime while waiting for everything else. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I will see you folks soon in the next video. Thanks for watching as always, and I think it's best to leave you with this.